Good evening, everyone. The time is now about 5 o'clock. We want to go ahead and begin our regular board meeting for the Port Arthur Economic Development Corporation. May I have a roll call, please?
Early Raymond. Eli Jacobs.
Here.
Jerry LaBeouf.
Here.
Morris Albright. Ingrid Holmes.
Here.
Daryl Anderson.
Here.
And Melvin Gedwood.
And for the invocation. Thank you, and we now for guidance. Just before we begin with our approval of our minutes, there are some questions about our meeting start time, because we moved the start time from 6 p.m. that it would normally be to 5 p.m. on today. I know initially we were going to do a regular meeting, a special meeting at 5 and then roll into our regular meeting, but we changed the time on our regular meeting. I just want to make sure that we're where we're supposed to be with that, because there were some questions about the changing of the meeting time.
Yeah, I had a question. Look like bylaws and the attorney that read, looks like all the minutes, all the meetings been sent out for the year, and 6 o'clock posting. Till we changed it to 5 o'clock. Looks like what I see on the bylaws, we can do that with the board's approval prior and have it on the agenda.
May or may not be the case. I've not read the bylaws. I'm not prepared for this question, and this is not an agenda item. You can place it on the next agenda to discuss how meetings are set.
So, the next meeting, let's say it's at 3. Hold on.
Just make sure it's on the agenda.
We can discuss it right now.
It is not on
Yes, you can, because we are not taking a vote.
Well-
It's kind of like a presentation and a speaker. You're not taking a vote. It got shut down last time, and unless you can show me,
Happy to.
let's see it.
Why don't you give me 10 minutes, and I'll come up with the case law that says, and the Attorney General handbook that says very specifically, if something's not posted on the agenda, you cannot discuss it. As a matter of fact, there's a paragraph in the Texas Attorney General's handbook that says, with respect, which you just referenced, with respect to citizens' communications, that the only thing you can do with respect to a citizen's communication is give a statement as to the law, a factual response. That's all you can do. You can't have a discussion about it. I'm happy to show it to you.
I'd like to see it.
If we'd like to take the time to shut down this meeting and let me go get that information, I'm happy to do it. All right.
But what y'all talking about is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the bylaws, and I know, Charlie, you have had the bylaws in your hands forever.
Sir, and I do not have them memorized. And if you wanted me to be prepared to discuss those bylaws and that specific question right now, you could have picked up the phone and called me, and I would have been prepared to give that answer. But I am not. I do not have the bylaws in front of me. You did not call me and ask me about this question. I'm happy to take anybody's phone call. I've taken your phone call. I've taken your phone call. I've answered questions. But what I don't like is being surprised with questions on the law or on our procedures without an opportunity to properly prepare to give you and this board and this audience the right answer. I don't think that's fair.
Correct. I talked to Anderson about this, and he said that you did discuss it in your review.
That's not what I said. What I said was the meeting was posted at 5 o'clock, and everybody that reads our agenda knows what time the meeting time is. Never said anything about approval or anything like that. Now, what we're not going to do is get stuck on this. So what we'll do is we'll see if we can get an answer on that. but we're going to move on to our regular agenda at this particular time, okay? So first thing on our agenda is to approve the minutes from our regular meeting from 6/3. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second to approve our minutes from the last meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This time we have a number of presentations on today that we want to get through. The first one is going to be Mr. Henry Labrie. Yeah, is he here? I mean, come on.
At the earlier meeting, my office called today at about 9, and they informed us it was at 5, not 6. So then we also found out this morning that we were on the agenda for tonight, about 9:30 today. So we're here, pardon my dress, I just come straight from work. What we'd like to do is, we're a builder, we're a developer, we have about 80 commercial properties, industrial, commercial. We're looking at wanting to build some properties at the business park. We've tried a year or so ago, and we were shut down because all the property was tied up. It appears now that this property is coming available, and what we would like to do is, we have several businesses that we've had to relocate. They actually asked for, put out their address because of the refineries. I've even sent the tenants to EDC and same results. The property was tied up. So that's what they call and tell me. You know, we had a company called Fullhorn Rental, Fullhorn AC, HVAC. They probably pay $30,000, $40,000 a month in sales tax between the two. I've relocated one in Beaumont. It's not where they wanted to be, but because they didn't find the property in Port Arthur, and the property was tied up at the EDC, then we just in the process of relocating them. We have Sunbelt HVAC company. They probably pay $20,000, $25,000 a month in sales tax. They're paying it to the county. I had to relocate them at the airport. They wanted Port Arthur address. My secretary has been in close communication with Michelle. They've been very helpful. She has. It appears that we are fixing to enter into a feasibility study contract on this property. I think it's block 11. It's a 17-acre tract, and we're looking at starting out with a 2-acre with future development on the rest. We do have 3 tenants that we have put off for 5 to 6 months. We was informed by 2 of them, they have to break ground by January in order to be in their building for their contract and stuff at the refineries. I just want to get a long-term commitment or a commitment of satisfaction that once we start developing in there, we don't run into a snag in the future. Of course, you know, we all hire humans, things happen. But we are looking at building 3 to 4 buildings. If throughout our process, if we don't have an empty property, we can't lease nothing. So I don't have a problem building a building or 2 and letting it sit, because they will come. With the expansions and stuff that we have going on now and what's coming after the first year, we get 2 to 3 calls a week. People wanting properties, buildings, 10,000, 20,000 square foot buildings. Other companies that want 7,000 square foot buildings, they want a yard, but they want the Port Arthur address because that gives them some satisfaction at the refinery that, you know, they are in compliance and they want to be in compliance. But, we went on for 6, 8 months, a year that I couldn't commit to them. If there's anybody, company that comes in town that wants to, looking for a property, they find us. Like I said, we can build a suit, and we don't have a problem, investing into Port Arthur, but we just want I don't want to say a long-term, but some type comfort level that we can continue developing in Port Arthur and not be shut down, because sometimes we work 4 to 6 months to get a contract signed. So that's kind of where we at, what we do. I mean, we have property all over. We have property in Louisiana that we're working on. We have property in Corpus Christi, Port Lavaca. But we want to spend our money here. We want to invest here, bank here, lease here. I mean, we want to keep all the money that we can locally. But I just want some type comfort level that we can, once I start moving forward, like I say, it may be 4 to 6 months, getting a contract signed, and then when I get it close and then the property no longer available, what do? I spent 4 to 6 months, a lot of money, marketing Port Arthur Business Park. But, I had to move Centos to Beaumont. I moved Four-Horn to Beaumont, Four-Horn HVAC and generator power. I moved them to Beaumont. I moved Sunbelt HVAC and power to the airport. We have 9 buildings there. We built 9 buildings in 18 months. I mean, we know how to build. The way I look at it is, if we build it, the tenants will come. If you don't have nothing empty, you can't lease nothing. So, like I say, we need some type of, and I don't know how we're going to get to that, there's some type of level that if I keep coming, can we keep having property to build? I mean, there's probably, at the Jack Brooks Airport, our 9 buildings there in land lease, we don't pay property tax, but we pay land lease and we pay sales tax and improvement tax. I mean, we spent over $1 million last year in taxes in just those 9 buildings. So these companies are not small. These companies pay a lot of taxes. If most of their work is in Port Arthur, I'd like to keep them in Port Arthur. To me, it's a drawing point. But like I said, we've been shut down, for a while. And I just like to open that door back up and let y'all know that I'm interested. I'm interested in investing. I don't have a problem investing money. I don't want to be the richest man in the cemetery. So, we're going to take what we do, we're going to keep rolling, and we'll keep building. So, but anyway, that's what I got. I know y'all's time's valuable, and I appreciate y'all's time.
Thank you so much for your presentation on today. I don't know, did anyone have any? Come on, Mr. Albright.
Say that we're working with you now?
My secretary, Anna, has been working with Michelle. And Michelle had informed her that they're interested in doing a feasibility contract, enter a contract on that section of property. And then we'll take it like in 2-acre sections. We get one, I have a tenant, but I've already committed them to another location out of Port Arthur. I'm just going to have to go through the process that I can move them back. If not, if we do have a tenant, we'll build 2. One to be leased and one empty. But right now, we're having a comfort level that we can continue doing this, and we want to.
Okay, all right. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Again, thank you for your presentation and your interest in this great city of Port Arthur, Texas. You have a great day, sir. All right. Our next presentation is from Floyd Baptiste. Right ahead. Somebody turn the mic for him so he can talk. Use one of the mics by you.
First thing I want to ask for having. Good afternoon, CEO, staff. I'm Floyd Batiste, private citizen. In the city. First, I want to thank Director Raymond and Director Albright for asking me to speak today on EDC grant application to EDA for the president. Very, when writing the proposed application, my thought was, if awarded this project, it would become the anchor project to revitalizing a blighted downtown area and breathing life back into it for business development in downtown Port Arthur. Second, I want to agree with Mr. Stokes. I heard him say at one of the meetings that we must follow the vision of the grant that this board was awarded to EDA. We must follow. We told them we're going to do certain things. We have to do those things. And what I want to do now is, I thought the best way is to share the vision that I had, that we had, the staff, myself, and a lot of community people had in writing this grant with you guys. And I think each of you guys was provided a copy of the actual application that was submitted to EDA for the $4.9 million that we received. And I'm not going to go through all this. I highlighted certain things in here that I thought was important to you guys. And the first thing, the project will become an anchor project to revitalize on a blighted downtown area and breathe life back into it. The proposed project will be called the Center of Community Development. The proposed project will consist of 3 separate standalone components: the Business Resource Facility, the Culinary Art Facility, and the city-wide Emergency Management Coordinating Center. Each proposed facility will be a standalone. They operate upon themselves. The Business Resource Facility will comprise of about 6,000 square feet. The space will be divided into office suites of up to 500 square feet. All small and expanding business client will be provided shared conference room, space, and technical business service. As I said, this is what we actually submitted to EDA. And I hate to read it. You guys are going to see in here, we said the project, each business client of the lease space will produce at least 2 new jobs within the first year. One thing about EDA look at job creation and revenue coming back into the city. And what we projected, each new business in that center, the Community Development Center, was going to create 2 jobs, okay? The Culinary Art had 11,000 square feet, and the Emergency Management Facility had 19,850 square feet. The space will, and the emergency management, a lot of people say it was for the city, but when we wrote it, it was for all taxes entity, including industry, because industry was very involved in this thing. You guys are going to see in back of here, there's a support letter from a couple of the plant managers talking about how they were going to help us make this thing work. The other thing I wrote in here was that, the hurricane came and the business resource was going to be a place where we could help improve the economy because the economy had went down. Everybody knows the economy went down, you know. So the next thing we talked about is the Business Resource Center will also provide local college students. We had discussion with Dr. Renard. She was very involved in this grant, where a student in their last semester, Dr. Stafford, last semester they would do internship with the small businesses that was in there, hoping that they would be able to get a job and stay here in Port Arthur. And it's all written in here, if you guys want to look at it. It's all written in here. The other thing, I think that in B5 of that EDA application, it says list and describe the strategic partners of the organization to be engaged in this project. And this is what we told them. The partners would be the Port Arthur Economic Development Corporation, will be the lead organization who will handle the day-to-day operation of the Center for the Community and Business Development. Well, we got PAEDC was going to get into agreement with Lamar State College, Port Arthur, to oversee the culinary school. PAEDC was going to get in agreement with Lamar State College Small Business Development Center to meet the evolving need of small and startup businesses. It says Lamar State College, Port Arthur Small Business Development Center will provide small business. We wasn't trying to duplicate nothing. We just took what we had in this community and we said, come to the table and help us. Entrepreneur in vast array of technical assistance by supporting business growth, sustaining and enhancing and creating new business entity. Lamar State College SBDC will foster local and regional economic through job creation and retention, and as a result of no-cost extension, one-on-one, long-term professional business advice. That's what they do. That's what they do. And they came to the table, and you will see here a letter of recommendation, letter of support from Linda Tate saying, this is what we're going to do. You know, Lamar will provide the following service through professional business advice, such as developing business plan for these folks, financial package, lending assistance, exporting and importing support, disaster recovery assistance, procurement, and they would do what they want. They do what they do. I don't know if any of you guys been to SBDC, but that's what they do, you know. The next thing I had in here, as I said earlier, the key to this thing is job creation and return on the investment. We told EDA we were going to create, in the community development, we were going to create 300 new jobs in 5 years. And we was going to generate $12 million of new payroll in 5 years. And if you go down to, I'm at D8, it says, the estimates are based on projection of the Business Resource Center and the Culinary Art Facility serving 10 to 12 new businesses and students per year, with an estimate of each business line 2 employees. It is estimated that all students will complete the culinary training and become employed, earning an average wage of $15. And we multiplied all that out. That's how we came up with the $12 million. You know, and that's what EDA want. They want you to create jobs and payroll. I don't want to, let's see, but those are some of the highlights. And I put in here, you know, where we committed the $1 million to EDA. We went to the council gave us permission to give to apply for the grant, because we couldn't apply without the council approving us to go to the grant. And I think, Darryl, you was there, Ms. Holmes, you all was very involved in this. The next thing I have in here is, well, the narrative. EDA requires that you kind of summarize everything that you want to do in one page. And I wrote the best I could. And I couldn't read it because it's too small. But they wanted it all in one page. That's their direction. And the next thing I want to talk about, it says the Center of Business Development will release on a monthly basis to new and expanding business. The small restaurant, cafe will release to Lamar State College. The citywide facility will release to the city and the folks. You know, the project will provide space for multiple users. I think those are, I haven't been in the building, but they're bottom floor, so I haven't seen the top floor, but there's a big area, four area where we used to rent for class, occasion, if someone wanted to cater, whatever, it has to generate money. It has to generate money. That's the intent of EDA. Yeah. And we even talked about the rent that we was going to charge. We said $1.10 per square foot. EDA want to know all that because they want to know where the money coming from. I don't know if most of you know, EDA got a lien on this building for 20 years. So they're going to be following this stuff and what's going on with this building. And the next thing I put in the letters of support. And, you know, Mr. Larry Kelly with the report. You could see that. Linda Tate with the SBDC. Who's the next one? Go down. Valero plant manager was there. He was very part of this thing. Dr. Renard was part of this thing. Who's next? Come on down. It's Mark Stoker with Valero. He was, you know, and Valero had, you know, we had Valero and Motiva, and we also had Total in here, and they had committed to have some of their subcontractors lease those spaces, you know, so that we could have Port Arthur residents come right here to apply for a job, you know. Southeast Texas Regional Planning Commission wrote us a letter of support. Who else? Bob Dickerson, yeah, with Southeast. Who else we have in there? That was, who was that? Oh, that's the Chamber of Commerce. Bill McCoy. Bill McCoy wrote us a letter of support. The Housing Authority wrote us a letter of support. Who else? Dr. Porter with the school district, he wrote us a letter of support. And the drainage district, is that the drainage district? Yeah. Phil Kelly with the drainage. All these people was involved in putting this application together. It wasn't just me. It wasn't just me. You know, and that's why we saw it as the anchor for business development downtown. And you know, earlier we talked about it was a startup or for small business, existing business. We was looking at in Port Arthur, and most of you guys, there's a lot of home businesses. People working out of their home. Actual environment, grow that business. And once they grow that business, if you go to, let's go down, the next step was we were preparing another grant for the building directly across the street, and it was originally we were going to be called the Port Arthur Market Street, right, Crystal? Yeah, Port Arthur Market Street. And in that building, there were 30 spaces for those people to move out of there into a permanent place with up to 1,000 square feet, depending on what they needed and had individual space in this building right here. And that was the design of the building. Go to the next page. That was the bottom floor. You could see each one of those. Ms. Holm, you were very involved with us on that. You know, behind the stairway was the elevator. On the third floor was a kiosk and with offices. That was the intent of this grant right here. That was the intent. I don't know what else I could tell you. If you have any question, I could certainly answer.
Mr. Baptiste, from listening to your presentation, if I have ABC Construction Company and I want to lease space in there, except for having 2 employees, that's all I need, right? All right, and I can be a $50 million a year company, and I can rent space in there, correct?
Right.
All right. In this EDC grant, was it ever the intention of the EDC to be an incubator as far as putting EDC resources to building and growing a startup company, or was that Lamar State College's role in providing them assistance?
That was Lamar State College role. And if you look in the deal where we talk about partners, Lamar State College, SBDC, that was their role. We didn't do that. They did that.
Okay, now, also in this grant, let's hypothetically say there's 10 offices, because I don't know how many offices are over there. Can all 10 go to ABC Construction Company, or do we need to leave 2 for a startup, or?
Well, it was for existing and expanding business. And, you know, whoever came in there, they wanted to lease out. Remember, the goal was for us to make money off of this thing.
Okay, so if I just come in with an idea and go, I want to start a business, help me, and give me some office space.
That wasn't the intent. The intent was not for startup business. It's for existing and expanding business.
Okay, thank you so much, sir.
The question I have, thank you so much for explaining this EDC grant, EDA grant. The question I have regarding the culinary. So you saying the only one who can control whether we lease the culinary area where this bistro is located would be Lamar students?
Lamar, remember, it was in the grant, we said to EDA that it would be standalone business. And we lease space to Lamar, and Lamar control that space. They pay rent to us. So they control that space. Culinary.
The bistro area.
That was another chaos. We were going to lease that to a business, existing or expanding business. That was the intent of it.
Okay, but the EDC controls
Right. EDC had very little role other than managing that business. That's it. Tendency. Other than that, that was our role.
I had a question. You said something about how many jobs. I don't know if you promised for this grant and how much money that it was going to be bringing in. Are they looking at that and are they going to watch
Sir,
this?
That's a commitment to EDA. We wrote in their grant. This is the actual application that went to EDA. And we said to EDA, we were going to create in 5 years. Because it doesn't say, but it tells you in the application 5 year. We said we were going to create 300 new jobs in that building. And we were going to produce $12 million of, I think it was $12 million? $12 million worth of payroll.
It's in 5 years?
Yes, sir.
And the building's been how long now? Crystal?
I don't know.
3? So at the end of 5 years, they can't come back and pull this grant?
That's a question. I have to go back and go.
So,
If we made commitment,
so how would they know?
well, y'all sent a quarterly report, or is that right?
Quarterly reports were only for the construction portion of it. After construction, there has not been any notification of reporting. So if there is any type of reporting as to what was put in the application, we have not been made aware of it just yet.
So is there not, after the application, do we have anything that we have to, any document that we signed as an agreement after the written grant?
I believe there was an award letter, and I know Mr. Stokes looked over that information recently. I don't recall if there was an agreement attached to it. But there was an award letter, and in that award letter, it just refers to our application.
All right, thank you.
There is a contact person that you deal with that's assigned to this particular project. And, you know, this is not the first rodeo I rode, but on a quarterly basis, I was always communicating with these people. They knew what was going on, you know. But, you know, anytime somebody give you $4.9 million, they want to know what you're doing with that money. And that, or doing what you told them you was, what it based upon it. So I don't know if there's any reporting going on right now. Hey, you guys, Lisa's not the person, because Lisa's in New Mexico right now. Right. I think you'll have another person here.
Look, Mr. Baptiste, if there'll be no more questions, we thank you for your time.
Okay.
And we're going to move on to our next presenter. Our next presenter is Mr. Bert Adams with Golden Triangle Catering. Just give him this one.
My name is Bert Adams. I'm the proprietor of Golden Triangle Catering LLC. We incubated here in Arthur and adjustment. Thank you. Since then, we've been trying to get information and do what we can for the press building over there. We were at it since 2022. That letter of reference was just what we're doing now. At that time, it was the previous administration, and we were dealing with Miss Jana Barnes, and we were at the finish line, we thought, and then administration changed and everything got scrapped. So we were just waiting on the RLSP to be issued from Mr. Williams, I think. That never happened. Since then, last year we met with Mr. Stokes. We've been trying to get information as to what do we need to do to be to participate as a minority business. I haven't received type of information back at one entrepreneurial center. Uh, that's fine. We're asking, what models do you want? Because we have flown in consultants and a management team with both administrations. When Ms. Jana Barnes was here, that stopping point, oh, what the council wants here. Excuse the, again, the letter reference, that was addressed to city council, but that was my step, but I was advised by wiser council to come to EDC first. So we need to know what we need. Our program is geared around high school students and college students, giving them internships and making them aware of, hey, when you get out in the workforce, you're going to have the opportunity to get into leadership meetings, to get into 5-year mid-plan regions or 10-year master plan regions. So our kids need to know that, entering the workforce. We pay 16-year-old kids, where we're at now, $15 an hour. They don't know anything about catering. We do catering, we service the public every day on the site that we're on. And at any given day, we can have 5,000 people in there, open to the public, and 4 catering events going on, 2 of them simultaneously and 2 later in the afternoon, but we deal with all of that. But we want, like, again, we wanted to deal with the kids. And at some point, when everything is finished with downtown, we're gonna have to leave room to scale to corporate and executive dining. That's the end game. That's where we wanna go. That's you know, Homeboys Hamburgers, some is executive and corporate dining. A little bit about myself. I've been in catering for about 40 years. 20 of those years was offshore on oil rig installation. And I retired from there and started a business, and we landed a contract with Grants Farm. We operate in Texas, operate as a foreign entity there. Program is a very successful program. They've been doing it for years. We just want to take that model and scale it down because we're dealing with privileged kids there. Well, we have not so privileged kids here in this community. Want to be part of the root system to feed them the nutrients. Grow. What our small business are doing. And like I said, we've been at it and have just really hadn't made any headway as far as communication. We can't get answers to anything. We're looking to lease office space over there in the press building. We were told that, you know, they wasn't leasing any right now. And the people that are leasing, their lease not gonna get renewed. So we just don't know which direction we need to go as far as being a part of this process. And that is a rough draft of one business plan. Again, we have several, just depending on where do you want to go with it. If you want multiple entities in there operating, if that's the case, then somebody has to have a master service agreement. And there has to be a lot of understanding because there's a lot of liability, potential liability there. So that, but if you take a minute, you can look over that, and I'll come back next month if you have any questions for me to get in detail.
Any questions? Mr. Adams?
So all you're doing is wanting to lease whatever.
Yeah, we want to lease office space or potentially lease the kitchen itself. And if we can't do that, if you all have an entrepreneurial program, can we be a part of that?
Of it. Thing with the
But we want to get them entering into the workforce as they're coming, because there are going to be some challenges in their life. See, when we deal with 16-year-old kids on up to 22, even some of the college students come back and they work for on the summertime. School year, they're only allowed to work so many hours. So we try to, be there and support for them.
Crystal, you can deal with you on this, right?
Absolutely. And Adams, we're still very interested. Nothing's changed. The only thing, the ducks that we had to get in a row, that hadn't changed. You know how to reach me.
Well, we've reached out and we don't even get return. We don't get return phone calls sometimes. A lot of times.
You what? Call you. We'll reverse this then.
Hey, well, are we going to have a dialogue that's meaningful when you call?
Meaningful is always in the eye of the beholder, but let's just get caught up. Make sure we still got organizing those ducks.
Fair enough.
I have one question. So basically you want to serve like breakfast and lunch and cut it off at a certain time, or I was looking at your menu.
At the end of the day, it's corporate dining hours is basically from 6 to 2. And after that, the facility is available for any type of startup companies, entrepreneur, but someone has to be there to manage them. We don't want to turn multiple entities loose in a kitchen where we have our inventory and we're trying to serve the city. We don't know where they're getting their product from. So that's where somebody needs to come in with a master service agreement. Okay, you're going to report to us, and how are you going to put product in there when we're serving the public every day, Monday through Friday? Those are the hours we're targeting.
Yes, sir. If I understand your proposal, you're looking for $100,000?
That's if we're going to have to deal with managing other entities and getting
Well, if it's just your entity alone.
No, we bring our own money to town. If there's any available for us in form of grants or CARES Act or anything, we want it, but we're not coming in asking for money.
Okay.
We bring our own money to town. When we incubated, we donated several $1,000s worth of food to the first responders, Chief Durso, police, the fire department, to the public works department, the city, and we were systematically donating food and meals to each area of the city. But a hurricane came and we lost all our product over in the building we incubated in, didn't have a backup generator, so we were out of power for a week. The whole building smelled like fish, chicken, and shrimp. Took me 2 weeks to get it cleaned out. So we came in the community giving. 2021, we did the Lamar State College annual athletic banquet. We did that over in the Carl Parker Center. And we were transitioning out of a building into what we called a ghost kitchen, to where we didn't have any overhead, able to utilize their facility.
Mr. Adams, thank you for your presentation, and we look forward to working with you. All right. All right, our last presentation for today, Dr. Ben Stafford.
Evening. It's always a pleasure to come here and talk to this board, always a pleasure. And good things to discuss tonight, and a sincere apology that I was not able to be with you last month. By the time I heard what the committee was discussing and received the request to be here, I was already committed, and I do apologize. I believe the report I sent in my place was shared last month, but I'll be glad to go through it with you. I'm here to talk with you about the industrial training facility. This was a partnership project between Port Arthur EDC and Lamar State College, Port Arthur. We drew the partnership together in 2019, made the application very late in 2019, and were awarded, I believe, in the fourth quarter of 2019. A grant kicked off early in 2020. This particular grant was a joint venture between this agency and the college to renovate what had been a 1924 Texas National Guard armory. It was an amazing opportunity to bring renovation to an existing structure and create a state-of-the-art craft training center right in this area to support the enormous growth our area is seeing in LNG construction. As I say, the grant kicked off in 2020. We finished construction on time and on budget in 2023. To the question of reports, we've actually turned in 2 data reports so far. They wanted data on operations by the end of 22, and we gave a second report on operations at the end of 2023. And the project is on operations for jobs and for budget at this point. I believe the members of council have seen the facility. It's a very impressive facility. It's ahead of any goals we've set for it. The partnership between the college and the council called for us to provide free care or free training to Port Arthur residents beyond anything that was provided by the Port Arthur EDC, and we have succeeded at those goals as well. We had discussed the need to provide training for 100 Port Arthur residents, and we had set a very modest goal of 20 residents per year because we weren't really sure when the actual construction would be finished. It was a very old building. There were significant challenges on the renovation. But it moved ahead of schedule. We opened on time. I don't remember an exact number, but it is in this report. As soon as, well, actually prior to the building being fully opened, we were training CDL students in there, and we moved the training of CDL students to our new CDL program. That was another EDA grant. Since this project opened, we've trained 27 students from 27 Port Arthur residents. We've trained over 400 students, but we've trained 27 Port Arthur residents at no cost to themselves or to the EDC to become commercial drivers. We've trained 17 Port Arthur residents to become carpenters, 29 Port Arthur residents to become reinforcing iron workers. I mentioned in here a Wagner-Pizer grant. A lot of this training was done under a state of Texas grant, and we were notified last week that we were awarded a second year of funding under that grant. And the training project in the building in the 24-25 season will be training commercial drivers again. It will also provide training for riggers and structural iron workers, because this is where the Bechtel project will be moving with the Sempra LNG building program. These are extremely high-paying jobs. So we're very, very pleased with where this is going, and I'd be glad to answer any questions.
Okay, so far you have trained 17 carpenters, 29 iron workers, and they all are Port Arthurans. Are they gainfully employed at this time?
I couldn't tell you at this time, but I could tell you that Bechtel was at the graduation, and Bechtel hired every graduate at every graduation. Now, I will also tell you craft work is hard work. I know I've already seen some people who came in to train as carpenters come back to train as truck drivers because they could not handle what it took to be carpenters. So I won't tell you that everyone is fully employed at this time, but I will tell you they left with employment. Whether they've kept it, I don't know.
How long was the training for these different?
It varies. Class A, Class A CDL is a 3-month training. Carpentry was a 2-month training, and reinforcing iron is a 2-month training. Coming into the next year, rigging Rigging is just under 3 months, and structural steel is right at 4 months. They're longer trainings, but they're extremely well-paid positions. Also be doing pipe fitting. Now, we'll be doing pipe fitting in that building late this summer and in the spring. Those are classes that Bechtel will pay for the students to attend. And again, every graduate is destined to go to that operation. Will they hire them? They've got to make the efforts to go to an interview, but I will tell you, Bechtel needs every person we can turn out.
Ever given an opportunity, or were you ever requested the names, address of these employees?
Students we trained?
The students.
I was requested to provide names of students, and I did that this morning, but I remind the board that the board is subject to FERPA requirements, just as the college is. I can share those names with you, and I did provide that this morning, but the board is subject to the same requirements the college is. I can only share it to you because you are already a funder to students, so you already have access to much of that data. But the board, like the college, could not use that data in any public format. But I did provide that this morning.
As well as the address?
I did not provide that. I'm not sure I would have in ready records their exact address. I could certainly pull it, but I can tell you that every person who was put into that project or into that data category, just as everyone who's put under EDC funding, at admissions, they are checked to be Port Arthur residents and confirmed. We would have the data, and I can pull it ultimately if you have any doubts.
If the majority of the board is okay, I think we did request that we get the names as well as the addresses of those students that attended the program. It would be greatly appreciated.
Any other questions for Mr. Stafford? Dr. Stafford, we thank you so much for your presentation and for the work that you're doing for our citizens of Port Arthur. Thank you so much. This time we'll move to communications. Stokes.
Yes, directors. 2 items to bring to your attention. Towards the end of this month, specifically the 23rd, our neighbors up north on the 3rd floor will be hosting the State of the City luncheon at the Bauer Civic Center, and that is on the 23rd. At last polling, roughly half of your number had signed up, and we'll continue to elicit whether or not you want to participate, and if we get sufficient numbers, we'll change from individual tickets to just getting a table. And that's the same thing as it relates to the item being hosted by the Greater Beaumont Chamber of Commerce legislative update. So those 2 items are available to you. If you choose to participate, just let us know.
Thank you. We'll now have our CEO report.
And thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of items that I want to highlight from my report. One, in terms of, at last time we were together, there was a request for an update on our summer youth intern program. Page 2 of my report, you'll see that we have 6 folks participating, 2 in the health department, 2 with the police department, and 2 with water utilities. Those folks have all been onboarded, if you will, and will be starting, if they haven't already started, will be starting perhaps later this week. And then I wasn't able to provide an update on the scholarship program. We were still closing that out. But listed on that page are the individuals that were awarded the 5 scholarships that we funded. And we wish those folks nothing but the best. We will be keeping up with them as they go through their program over at the college. And then beyond that, meeting before last, I had pointed out that Deputy Miller had embarked upon getting her certification in operating a entrepreneurship center. And I'm very, very pleased to say that she has achieved that certification. See a copy of her certification in my report on page 1. Just got word late today, and I'll add to that, that Mrs. Palmer has been elected to the board of directors for the International Business Retention and Expansion organization. So we celebrate both of those folks, both Ms. Mueller and Ms. Palmer. And lastly, but certainly not least, just continue to make progress on the recruitment to fill our opening for our workforce and community development position. And Deputy Mueller and I are still on track for having that closed out in the August-September timeframe. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor back to you.
President, before we move on, I would like to, because we're at the end of the reports, go ahead and recite the statement that I said was in the Attorney General opinion regarding our ability to deliberate items that are not on the agenda. It is in the Attorney General handbook, and the Attorney General recites the law specifically. Section 551.042 of the Act provides that if at a meeting of a governmental body, a member of the public or of the governmental body inquires about a subject for which notice has not been given as required by this subchapter, the notice provision of this subchapter do not apply to a statement of specific factual information given in response or a recitation of existing policy, which is what I said. I also said you can't discuss it. The next statement under the law says, any deliberation of or decision about the subject of the inquiry shall be limited to a proposal to place the subject on the agenda for the subsequent meeting. It is a requirement of the law that if an issue is brought up by either a member of this board or the public that's not on the agenda, we can give a statement of fact, a statement of policy, but no deliberation is authorized unless it's been properly noticed. The only deliberation that is authorized is whether or not it should be placed on the next agenda for full consideration after being properly posted. Like the page number of the AG handbook.
So Attorney, you're saying that I can't question anything regarding his report? Or are you speaking only on agenda items? Can I question anything regarding the report he just presented?
Yes, because that's posted on the agenda. Yes, ma'am. If it's listed on the agenda, you can absolutely do that. If it's not listed on the agenda, if it's just part of the backup information, then you would have to put it on a future agenda.
Do you have a question?
A question regarding the youth employment program. I understand that it's these 6 students that is a part of this program. Were they part of the technical program at Memorial? Were they in the police? I don't know, the head of police academy at Memorial or technical school? Were they working in water? Were they nursing? Were they in the nursing field?
To the first part of your question, yes, they were all involved in the CTE program. Each of the entities were allowed to see the application background, what the students were focused on, and made their selections from those particular candidates.
So you're saying that, I didn't know they have like a police type.
We do.
They do? Okay. So these students did come from, they
I
were
don't
trained.
know about these students.
Because basically, I know the program was designed. I don't know what's.
Can hear you.
I know the program was designed. Those students, technical school, you will back in the summertime. A program they was involved in, work in a company affiliated with, hopefully most of the time, we're not in the pay. The summer, college, party, program.
And Director Raymond, like I say, all of the entities that put in an application to participate in the program were made available where the students, what programs they were in, whether or not they had completed a year of college or so forth and so on, or just coming out of high school. And like I say, those entities then made their selections. So for example, in Dr. Smith's case, she had a list and she specifically targeted 2 folks that she knew had a background in what she wanted the students to be focused on for the summer. So that is how the assignments were made, based on folks selecting from the applications.
Any other questions from the report? I did want to just say congratulations to Ms. Mueller and to Mrs. Palmer on her certificate and on the placement on the board. So congratulations, job well done. So we're going to move now to our unfinished business. Agenda item number 1, to review, discuss possible action regarding a proposal provided by the City of Port Arthur to Austin Oak Wilson and Co. LLC for the Port Acres wastewater treatment plant engineering study. May I have a motion, please?
Moved.
Second.
It is and second, Mr. Stokes.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Directors, this was on your agenda at your last meeting. Staff was specifically directed to get an update from the leadership of MPW. Ms. Mueller hosted their chief operating officer back in the middle of last month on a site visit that was also geared towards checking off that they had achieved their milestones as a part of the incentive package that we have available to them. Based on that information, I thought it was appropriate to bring back to you for consideration this particular opportunity. I will point out that this particular study had been included in the budget that preceded me at 100%. That was carried on into the last fiscal year. And of course, now we're looking at the City of Port Arthur taking on the lion's share of the overall cost. So I recommend to you, given the critical nature of the 2 corridors that this facility supports, as well as the Spur 93 Park, it's still my recommendation that we proceed with participating in this project at the percentage that is provided in your report.
Any questions?
Yes, what did you mean by the Port Arthur taking on 100% of the costs? What was that about?
In the budget that I inherited when I came on, there was a line item that was associated with this proposed study that the backup notes basically said that the EDC would take on 100% of whatever what was budgeted. As it turns out, more would have had to have been added to that figure based on this. It would have been grossly underfunded. But I only point that out just to point that at one time, there was a thought process that this entity felt that this was an important enough project that it would take it on. I would submit that the importance of the project to the EDC has not changed, but what has changed is a minimization of our participation in the cost.
Any other questions?
So I think we discussed last time, this is not our facility, and I'm just wondering why we're getting involved in something that's not ours, MPW or not.
I can only suggest to you, Director LaBeouf, as well as fellow directors, We have a number of strategic partners and stakeholders that we all join together for the economic development benefit of the city of Port Arthur. I do not in any way, shape, or form disagree with you as to whose label is on the facility, but I would state and point out that the facility is supporting heavily our tenants. And those tenants, just like with Mr. LaVrie pointing out tonight, are only going to continue to grow at that park. And so if we need to make sure that ourselves and our strategic partner are not in violation of TCEQ, and we can do that with a partnership that has the city of Port Arthur, as you point out, whose tag is on the equipment, taking up 65% of the cost of something that at one time someone deemed that this entity would cover 100%. Again, I guess I don't see what the difference in importance to the organization has changed in 3 years.
Any other questions on this?
Yes. The problem I have with this is it also serves 365. And if I throw up 2 apartment projects on 365, that's going to equal just about anything in a business park. Unless MPW comes to us and commits that they want to double up. Okay? So once again, we get no revenue from the water that the city sells. We get no revenue from the wastewater. It is a service that the city provides, and it is, what's the term I'm looking for? It's a revenue fund, but what's it called? It's just a revenue fund.
Revenue fund.
And in that revenue fund, it's the city's responsibility to plan for maintenance, future projects, future expansion, and depending on the development, might ask the developer to participate in any upgrades that's needed, which the city has done before. But right now, while the city might need to do this study, we're not asking the city to expand anything. The study's on them. And the TCQ has nothing to do with the EDC. The TCQ cannot find the EDC. It can only find the city because they're the permit holder. Thank you.
Albright really answered for me. This is not a EDC project. This is a requirement of the city of Port Arthur. I don't have issue that we are assisting them, but I think we need to make that very clear that this is not a requirement of the EDC to take care of the water treatment plant. I just want to be clear.
It sounds like you would want that language, if in fact the board decided to proceed, you would want language to that effect in any resolutions or?
I don't need it in a resolution, any of that. I just want to be clear that my statement is that it is not the requirement of the EDC to take care of that. Not that I disagree with it. I'm saying it's just not our responsibility.
I'm Haney Tomei with Golden Triangle Consulting Engineers, a consultant for the city of Port Arthur. You all are 100% correct. The EDC is it's not responsible for studies and expansions. Nobody is arguing that point. What we're trying to do here is be proactive. If somebody comes to the EDC today and says, I want to build a second MPW or a second waste management type facility, we will have to tell them no. We cannot permit you for it because we do not have the capacity at the wastewater treatment plant to actually take your waste. What we are trying to do here is a study to determine what is needed for this future and how can we plan this future. And without this study, we cannot plan it. And as far as the city is concerned, What we have in capacity available today can probably go 10, 15, 20 years for standard growth and standard operation and little commercial buildings here and there. But it cannot support a major facility that can come to the EDC. So that is the reason why we're trying to get this study forward, and that's why we're asking the EDC to participate in the cost. So it's something we need to look at today for the future. And if the board decides that this study is not that important and the future can be dealt with later on, the city is fine with that as well. So you all tell us what direction you want to move towards, and we will do it. Either don't do it or do it. Participate or don't participate. But again, as far as the city is concerned, what we have in capacity today, we as the city don't need that study today. We don't. But if the EDC has anything major come up, and we don't have something ready to go and say, okay, we'll support you in a year while you're developed because we can do ABC at that wastewater treatment plant, you're not going to be ready for that growth. So you all tell us which way you want to go, and the city is fine with it. It's up to you all to decide which direction you want to take this.
So if there is growth that happens within the city, then you all would have to be responsible for that. I'm not disagreeing that this is a good partnership. What I'm saying, and I just want to make it clear for the record, it is not the EDC's responsibility. It is a part of a partnership for growth. And I don't disagree.
100%.
I want to make that real clear.
100%,
All right.
and that's one of the things I said last time I stood at this podium is the city considers the EDC a partner, but the city at this time cannot take the responsibility of the entire cost because it is not a priority to the city.
Mr. Gatewood?
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's my understanding that the cost initially was going to be the request for the cost, right? Total cost for the project.
It had been budgeted 2 fiscal years and then moved forward to cover the study.
The revisiting of that, it's now 65% city and the other portion to the EDC if the EDC decides to go in that direction. Thank you.
And we are able to do that because our budget this year till October have this fund available. So that's why we said, okay, we will participate as well, just to show our good faith effort towards this project. But please also note, if you all approve this to move forward, we still got to take it to council to approve it. So the council will have to approve this agreement.
I have a question. Across from Tractor Supply, there's going to be about a $12 million RV park coming up, man out of Houston. And evidently that's pretty big. So would this problem, would this affect them or not?
An RV rules for RVs is 50 gallons per day per unit. So if they put 100 units, that's only 5,000 gallons a day. If they put 200 units, that's only 10,000 gallons a day. So it's insignificant to us when it comes to this small volumes. What we are concerned about is we don't want to lose a client at the EDC that come in and says, I want 500,000 gallons a day. I want 1 million gallons a day. We don't want to lose that kind of client because that's the kind of client that creates jobs, that brings money, that brings tax dollars, and we want to capture them. And that's why we're trying to be ready for that through this study.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other?
One more thing. Last month I asked you, and it was kind of a weird deal, but if we do this study, are y'all going to come back and want us to foot the bill whenever it's going to time to construct it?
I don't want to put this horse in front of the buggy, okay, or behind the buggy, or however it works. It's not known for this time. The study might come and say, look, you can spend $1 million and expand this plant and its capacity by 1 million gallons, or it can come and back and say, you need a brand new plant that's going to cost $100 million. Neither the city nor the EDC can support that, and we will have to find different avenues to fund it. So we don't know. We don't know where's the money going to come from for the improvements at this time. It can be something we can budget. It can be something we come back to you and say, hey, do you all have any money to, help with this? But if the city can afford it, the city is going to do it. It is our facility. It is a city's facility. It's owned by the citizens of Port Arthur.
Thank you. This time, we had a bunch of questions, so I guess we have those out the way. Can we call for a vote, please? All in favor?
I'd like a roll call vote on this.
Fine.
Beverly Raymond. Eli Jacobs. Jerry LeBeau. Morris Albright. Ingrid Holmes.
Yes.
Daryl Anderson.
Yes.
And Melvin Goodwin.
Yes.
Motion carries. Number 2, under unfinished business, to review, discuss the possible action regarding the approval of the terms and conditions of an economic incentive infrastructure grant with Corporal Enterprises. May I have a motion, please?
Mr. President,
Removing it?
yes, going to ask that that be removed. We'll bring that back once we have additional data for the board.
Okay. I have 2 consent agenda items. May I have a motion to approve our consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
Moved and second to approve the consent agenda. All in favor? Opposed? Thank you. Number 1 on our non-consent agenda items, review, discuss, and possible action on proposed revised bylaws and requesting council's approval of the same. May I have a motion, please? Move. May I have a second?
Second.
Been moved and second. I believe it's going to go to the attorney for this one. No? Bylaws? Or they're going to Mr. Stokes?
This was placed on the agenda, I think at the request of Director Albright, to go through it again. Is that correct, Director Albright?
Put it back. I put this on the agenda because we were supposed to do it in our special meeting.
Oh, all right,
Yes.
okay.
Meeting.
So I'm happy to answer any questions about the bylaws. I do know that there was one provision in there that I think the board was interested in, which is under page 3, line 131 of bylaws, and it states that any member of the board may request that an item be placed on the regular agenda. That discussion about having that changed to any member of the board have an item placed on the agenda, as opposed to preferences mandatory having it placed on the agenda at the request or just it being a request. That's the only thing in the bylaws that I was aware of that was up for consideration, but they're bylaws, it's your discussion to have as to what you want to do with them.
We had a discussion and we've had a few trainings, I believe it was the end of last year, about the revision of our bylaws. And we were supposed to do another, training for those board members who were just coming on because we held off the voting on the new bylaws for that on this past Monday. We were supposed to have a special meeting that life happens. We could not get everyone together for that. And we made sure everyone had a copy of the items for agenda item number 1 and number 2 for us to go over and to discuss so that we could handle those those items in this particular meeting. And so what we're looking at are those proposed revised bylaws that were done and presented to us some 3 or 4 times in discussion on last year. And that's what we're looking at for consideration right now.
As a reminder, these were cleaned up to take out things that were redundant and repetitive, and then things that were more appropriate to be placed into policies and procedures, and the policies and procedures is on this agenda. The things that were pulled out that dealt with the financial issues and things like that were placed in the policies and procedures manual that this board, I think this board previously approved, but I can't remember.
That was going to be my statement. I think that the board previously approved this. The agenda.
So any
The last thing I remember a couple of months ago is that the policy procedure and bylaws were put aside, and we was going by our old bylaws, and then now this comes up.
What happened was we pushed back the council approval of the revised bylaws that were approved by this board that were going to council because we had board members that had not been familiarized with those bylaws, just to give opportunity for that to happen. That's why we're back on it now.
I'm just coming in, but we discussed this before. We had scheduled a workshop, which unfortunately we was not unable to attend due to emergency in my situation. Again, it is possible before we approve the bylaws, since a lot of board members are not familiar with it, can we move this to executive session to discuss it further, if it's possible?
We move it to closed session. There's no authority for a closed session on bylaws. Discussion has to occur in open session.
We table it until each board member is able to. We have not got a chance to discuss it. We talked about having a workshop to discuss the bylaws and the policies and procedures.
Sorry. I mean, I'm happy to answer any questions or go over it here if it's the board's pleasure.
President, correct me if I'm wrong. I think that we have voted on the bylaws, policies, and procedures here, and those items have been approved. And the only thing that we were waiting on is approval by the city council. So I don't really see any need for that at this juncture, because we have approved this. We can go over it with new members, but we've approved it.
Okay, we approve it, I agree. We also agreed to have a workshop to discuss it. We did agree, all the board agreed. Did we not agree?
I have no issue with the statement of a workshop, but as far as being approved, that's my statement. It has been approved. The policy and procedure manual has been approved, and the other item that we are talking about, the bylaws, that has been approved.
Okay,
Hold on one second. Hold on, Miss Raymond.
Okay.
We're not going to do a lot of back and forth. Let me recognize everyone before they start speaking.
Right, no problem.
Okay? Before we start hopping back and forward. Now, Mr. Albright, you had something you wanted to say right now, or you want to hold it?
No, I want to hold it.
Okay, so come on, Ms. Raymond.
Well, since it has been approved by the board, why it's on the agenda? All they gotta do is go to city council. So why it's back on the agenda?
It was out of respect for
It was approved by the board.
members.
Am I correct?
Correct, it
Okay, so
was.
why it's back on the agenda?
It was out of respect for the new board.
Oh, out of
members.
respect, okay.
Yes, ma'am. Because it had been approved. It was approved, I want to say last year.
All right, I'd like to make a sub-motion. I make a motion to reconsider the approval of the bylaws and policies and procedures.
Motion on the floor, and we're gonna do a roll call vote on this one so we can get past this one and get back to our standard motion. And this one is to rescind, say it again?
To reconsider, which means that It removes the approval. The approval and has to come back before the board, and the board has to vote on it one more time.
This is, we're voting now to see if we're going to take back the action of what the board has already done. That's what we're voting on. You want to say something before we vote?
I do. I want to add to his motion because I want to add that in consideration of the fact that we were going to have the workshop. Because that's, I mean, if we weren't doing that, we wouldn't have it back on the agenda. I have to agree with her on that.
And the reason why it's back on the agenda, no harm, no foul, is we can discuss it right now. It's not an option. I mean, it's not something that we cannot discuss at this very moment.
Right, but nobody has it in front of them.
Good comment.
My comment is that, agreed, it wouldn't be on the agenda had the workshop not been requested. And of course, we all understand, excuse my voice, we all understand that the workshop was not, it did not happen. However, I believe that we have been given ample opportunity to review the revised bylaws, procedures, and policies. We've had extensive discussion in this forum on multiple occasions, and we've also all received physical as well as digital copies of said documents. I agree we can take this to a vote, but I want to go on the record stating that.
I'm just curious how many people know that in these bylaws that you agreed to, that no board member is allowed to talk to staff about anything. I'm just curious how many board members knew that. I know that? Call the vote.
Go ahead and go for the roll call vote. Wait, hold on.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Beverly Raymond,
On the, Mr. Morris, where we voting on his? Okay, yes.
Eli Jacobs,
No.
Jerry LaBeouf, Morris Albright, Ingrid Holmes,
Yes.
Daryl Anderson,
No.
Melvin Goodwin.
Okay, it's been approved that we will rescind what was done in the past and bring these bylaws back with another rescheduling
The workshop.
of a workshop that we need to go ahead on and reschedule. Can we go ahead and reschedule that now since we're talking about it? Is that lawful?
That's scheduling something is not.
Well, let's go on and schedule the thing now, as long as it's now on a Saturday. Y'all pull y'all calendars out, and let's get this scheduled. Let's see if
On a
we can get
Monday.
it. Monday.
It's Monday.
Mr. Zach, we be able to present it, so be able to do the workshop for us on, when are you available to do it? I forgot your calendar is the one that's crammed.
It's coming Monday, the 8th.
Okay, fine.
I have to be at another Economic Development Corporation meeting on Monday, the 8th.
What's the next month available?
I like July 29th.
July the 29th.
July 8th, I have, July 8th, I've got another client meeting. July 15th, I've got another Economic Development Corporations appear to want to meet on Mondays. I've got another Economic Development Corporation meeting on the 15th. On the 22nd, I will, looks like according to July 29th.
Directors, is there a day other than Monday that you'd like to suggest?
We're fine with the 29th. We're fine with the 29th. Is everybody?
We still have,
We have something already.
President, what are we going to be discussing there? What I'd like to see is the old bylaws and the new bylaws.
You already have the old, all the new bylaws, the line,
Like to
and the
see
policy
it,
and procedure.
bylaws to the policy and procedures. Good.
We'll do it for a time. That's fine. We
6.
Is it possible to do it earlier than that on the Monday?
If we vote on it.
Yeah, I'm not in school.
Your previous one was scheduled for 10 o'clock.
right, but folks work.
Yeah, she
Mondays,
works.
so it's
That's
it's
what
then
five-
again, that's what
would
Brad's got
5
us in
PM
trouble.
be okay?
5.
Does that?
That's pushing it for you, huh? 6 it is.
I'll figure that out.
That'd be fine.
Figure it out.
Let's go
If that works for the majority, I'll
for
be on
5. Let's keep our schedules clear, barring any emergencies on this one. I know emergencies you can't do nothing about. That's why I said barring any emergencies, okay? Let's try to keep our schedules clear. I hope y'all checked y'all calendars. All right, so we have that schedule. Now we're moving on to, so what we're gonna do is we're going to table 1 and 2 because they're gonna go into the, say that word. Workshop, thank you. My brain just went, pew. We're gonna go into the workshop. We've done these already. Into the workshop. So we're gonna look at agenda item number 3. And it's a presentation and discussion regarding obligations and duties of the Board of Directors and the CEO. And if it's the pleasure of the board, I would like to take this same item to that workshop. I want to move that to that workshop. Is that, everybody's okay with that? All right, so we're going to take item number 3 and bring it, and item number 4. We're going to bring all those items to the workshop. Okay? All right. Agenda item number 5. To review, discuss, and possible action to accept the PAEDC's 2023-24 first and second quarter financial reports. May I have a motion, please?
So move.
Moved and second to accept our financial report. Mr. Stokes or?
I'm going to be tag teamed on this. Just a little bit of background. As I put in the memo that went along with this, as well as just, I spoke on it last meeting, staff received direction at the last meeting that we were going to continue to produce the quarterly report in the format that was approved going into this fiscal year, which was approved last summer. So we're back on track. So it may appear that these reports are late. They're not late in any way, shape, or form. They've just been held up until staff got that direction. Now that we have, we are now seeking to bring those to you. They cover from last October, the beginning of the fiscal year, through the end of the second quarter. Our financial officer is on hand this evening if you happen to have any specific questions. At a very high level, for those first 2 quarters, we stayed on track and within our major budget milestones. I will remind, or not remind, yeah, I'll remind the directors that as we went into this fiscal year, the budget was based on a flat projection. In other words, we used the same number for this particular budget that ended the previous budget, so that we could take a hedge against inflation, any continued turn down in the economy, plus the obvious of getting ready to go into election years. That will be the same case as we go into the next budget, which I'll talk about a little bit later.
Questions? Mr. Albright, you have a...
Yes, you said that it was reaffirmed at the last meeting that this was going to be the format, correct? All right, number 4, review and discussion possible direction to staff the frequency of receiving budget reports and what format. A motion was made by Morris Albright, seconded by Beverly Raymond, to approve the frequency of receiving budget reports and in what format. Following discussion, the board asked for this item to be included in the upcoming workshop scheduled for June 24, 2024, and be moved to the next board meeting for consideration. The motion to approve failed. No action was taken.
And so my interpretation, as also guided by Vice President Holmes, as she held the gavel that night, is that because the motion failed, then you continue on with what was approved, and that was in place by the board. So it sounds like we're in agreement. What has not changed is the pleasure of the board for a new format, which was going to probably be one of the outcomes of the workshop, which is now scheduled for the 29th. Assuming that that will be the case, then that format will be adopted.
All right, well, that being said, and I'm not going to debate this to death, but I'm going to vote no, and the reason why I'm going to vote no is this is an incomplete financial picture. It does not show your reserves it does not show your reserves. A complete financial picture.
And so, Director Albright, you are correct. That's a line item that we can add. In the past, that item was in reports. The board would have received what that was going out of a fiscal year, and it would just be continued on in the reports until such time that the financial officer for the city provided us updated fund balances and information. So no problem in adding that line back. Can tell you that we're healthy, but if you want to table this pending that one line item being added back, I will point out that that was not a request of what was approved last summer, but again, it's at the pleasure of the board.
No, and I'm just,
Any other?
Mr. Stokes, I heard you say it twice before. The budget is going to be flat, meaning flat to me would be just like last year, same thing. Is that correct, with tax money coming in?
Perhaps I'm using the wrong term. Whatever is the correct term for, we took what we ended in the previous fiscal year, and when this budget was being developed last summer, and then ultimately approved, that number is what we carried on. We did not, in order to make sure that we had cushion.
Go ahead.
Okay. And for a safety measure, we just simply carried on that particular number. So we did not predict any particular increases nor any decreases. So that's what this number has been operating under. Now, of course, as you know, Director LeBeau, we have sold land and we're going to continue to do that. So we have had income, and that's going to make this look so much better. But for safety purposes, the board accepted the notion of let's just make sure we go in with what we ended the previous fiscal year with.
Floyd Batista, citizen, Port Arthur, former business owner, former director of EDC. When you're in business and you're looking at your money every quarter, you go broke. My recommendation to this board is look at that money every month. A quarter is a long time. Go broke in 90 days, guys. That's my recommendation to y'all.
This time, looking for the vote on agenda item number 5. All in favor? Opposed?
No.
Do a roll call, please.
Beverly Raymond. No. Eli Jacobs.
No.
Above. Morris Albright. Ingrid Holmes. Daryl Anderson.
Yes.
And Melvin Goodwin.
At this time, if you would allow me to, let me move and break and go to our executive session at this time, and then we'll come back and finish the last of our agenda item. The closed meeting or executive session will be held pursuant to the following sections of the 551 Texas Government Code. Texas Government Code 551.072 to deliberate the purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property. We'll go into executive session at this time.
Beverly Raymond. Here. Kayla Jacobs. Here. Jerry LeBeau.
Here.
Morris Albright. Ingrid Holmes. Daryl Anderson.
Here.
Melvin Goodwin. You have a full quorum.
So much. I pick up on our non-consent agenda at agenda item number 6 to review and discuss the preliminary PAEDC proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion.
All right, it's been moved and second. Mr. Stokes. Next item number 6.
Thank you, Mr. President. Directors, it's my honor to present to you the technically preliminary budget that has been developed over these past few months. We're following a schedule, if you will, of events that we did last year. It was probably years before that, in that you're seeing the preliminary budget at a very high level. This has been submitted to the finance director of the city of Port Arthur, who's has to, although we're separate, she makes sure that this is in sync with overall for the city, and her team are working on that now. So there will be potential feedback from her team as well as feedback from you. On the second page, or the page after the cover, I just want to go over real quickly what this preliminary budget was, the thought process that went behind it. The proposed budget of $8.8 million for fiscal year 24-25 is the same as what we went into the current fiscal year that we're operating under right now. So again, as Director LeBeau said, the term may not be flat, but whatever that term is, that's what we're doing for safety purposes. The budget structure has been geared around the corporation's departments. Departments in italic, because technically the PADC does not have formal departments, but I'll explain that a little bit more in terms of thought process. And it's structured around the strategic priorities that were approved last March upon which our eventual strategic plan will be based off of. Continued focus of making sure the corporation is on a strong footing to compete in the economic development marketplace regionally, statewide, nationally, and globally. Launch of the corporation's entrepreneurship program, and then performing robust business attraction, retention, expansion, workforce development, community development, marketing, and research. In terms of assumptions as they related to revenue, we assume that as we continue on in the national recession, that sales tax will be flat, and thus as a precaution, again, this particular projected budget, 24-25, that should be, is going to start at where the current budget was based upon, and that's 8.8 million. Again, the assumption that our contracts with our strategic partners, Lamar State College, Port Arthur, and the Port Arthur Federal Credit Union will remain in place and intact. In terms of expenses, the schedule of personnel that was submitted preliminarily calls for 2 professional staffers to be added and 2 administrative staffers. That is picking up again from what was approved last year in terms of overall vision for the corporation. Again, launch of the entrepreneurship program, a complete overhaul of our marketing, communications, and research efforts, commencement of implementation of the corporation's 24-33 strategic plan, which last meeting I committed to that drafts would be available in August. We'll drive towards a completion in September and implementation starting in the fiscal year in October. In terms of our workforce programs as they relate to our youth, there is budgeted an increase in scholarships from 5 to 10, and also in this preliminary budget is taking the number of summer interns up to 15. Plus the overall implementation of new workforce and community development programs as we bring the workforce and community development staffer on board, which, as you know, we are currently recruiting for. And the second page is just a refresher on what the 10 strategic priorities were that were approved back in spring of 23. Okay, in terms of the budget layout, I will emphasize that this is preliminary, pending your feedback as well as Ms. Boswell's feedback, the head of finance for the city. The structure that we're using and working with the finance director on is built around what I'm calling departments, if you will, and again, I put that in italics. It is broken up into the major categories of what this organization will be centered around in terms of various entities that we're bringing on board. These numbers are not tied to any individual. They're not a person's budget, if you will, and funds can be moved around as needed if for some reason we feel that some program in business attraction, retention, and expansion needs support, and perhaps there's something that we are delaying in some other category, then funding can be moved around with the notice to the board and approval. So with that being said, under business attraction, retention, and expansion, that column ends up being the largest number because it's within that particular area that our incentive programs lie. So you see that we're going to put in $50,000 into our Bro Port Arthur Fund. Let me just stop right there. That is something that we're kind of bringing back alive. It's been sitting dormant with about $500,000 sitting in it. Myself and the team will be meeting with Grow America, the entity that assists us with that. We'll actually be meeting with them tomorrow, as a matter of fact, time flies, to discuss ways that we can make utilization of those funds that are just currently sitting out there, perhaps for to supplement our loan program, to supplement our entrepreneurship program. They have a number of ideas of how they have made use of those funds in other areas that they've been successful. So we're going to talk to them about that. A microloan program will continue to be funded, and then our overall primary incentivization program. And then the remaining categories tend to repeat for each particular main category. So, for example, there is going to be software applications and support that are specific to the BEAR program, supplies, development of Jade Avenue and Spur 93, any particular land acquisitions, and again, as a part of keeping the overall budget flat, that number is presently zeroed out. Marketing and advertising as it relates to the BEAR program in terms of new programs that we develop, as well as marketing our industrial parks. Any professional services that are needed, and that should say BEAR, not entrepreneurship program. And then anything that's travel and education, professional development. And you'll notice that each one of the categories is carrying a small rainy day contingency so that each individual, for example, there is a BEAR manager. She will be in charge of managing the day-to-day of these numbers in consultation with Ms. Jaquette. A part of that management, if something that we decided to do put stress on these numbers, then there is a contingency tied to that particular section that can be utilized without having to tap into the larger corporate level contingency plan. Next is, and so that number comes out at $2,090,000 in round numbers. And again, that is the largest share simply because our incentives are lying there. In terms of our Center for Entrepreneurship, much of the things that we were talking about tonight in terms of some of the presentations are tied to this. You'll see that there is some repeat in terms of the description of titles. These things are primarily what would be involved in supporting any of our startup businesses that would be connected to our entrepreneurship hub. So that program, as it gets launched, we've put in a budget of $572,000 initially, which includes $100,000 of contingency. That takes us over to marketing and insights. Insights you can think of as research as it relates to where we stand versus bringing in research as to where we can attract businesses, what type of housing do we need to supply for the industrial boom, so forth and so on. So think of this as the traditional marketing communications with an additional aspect of research. And again, there is the function of marketing and advertising, professional services, rebranding activities. Let me anticipate you, Director LeBeouf, because she always asks, well, when is that rebranding going to happen? Soon. I don't want to get ahead of the strategic plan, but you have every right to ask that. Software applications and support, for example, tonight you approved the Impact data source software under the consent agenda. That is what we use to determine the economic development impact of any particular project that we're going to bring to you to approve incentivization, so that you all have an idea of what will be the projected return on investment, what will be the value of the jobs, so forth and so on. So that's what software applications and support is tied to. Any technology that is needed for that particular program, again, travel and education, professional development, the overhaul of the website, and then the subsequent management, as well as deployment of digital services, fancy term for social media. And again, a $100,000 contingency just in case, and that will be managed by the person that we bring on for that particular section. Next, workforce and community development, which happens to be the position that we're currently recruiting for. We have existing programs, two of which we've talked about tonight, as well as our CNA program and some others that are near and dear to our heart. Those programs will continue. There is a nearly doubling of the funds that would be allocated if this preliminary budget is approved. And as I mentioned in my report, some of that is tied into, or excuse me, not in my report, but in the assumptions. Part of that is tied to increasing the number of scholarships that we award, a near doubling, and then increasing the amount of students that we have participating in interns in our summer program. So that is what that funding is for. And then, of course, we certainly expect the person that we bring on board, one of the primary things we want them to do is to bring us new ideas, fresh ideas, and so it doesn't do any good if you bring new ideas and they haven't been funded. So that's where that funding is tied to in terms of any new programs we bring on to improve our workforce and providing our industries, as well as anything that we're doing for our youth in terms of community development. Any related professional services, any consulting that we might need to bring on in that area. Again, software, any sponsorships, anything that we may be doing along the lines of supporting like the chamber or anything that's community development or workforce specific. We get requests a lot of times for nonprofits to support. One that we recently got that is not on your agenda because the event was going to be canceled was a home ownership program that was going to be done across the street at the pavilion. So those things will always come to you, but assuming that you approve them, then we created make sure we have a bucket of funding available for those types of sponsorships. Again, professional development and rainy day contingent. Any questions so far? No, I'm going through it pretty quickly. Okay, switching over from departmental and more of a overall corporate, we've broken up the general operations and asset management into the two facilities that we primarily keep up with. One is this facility, and obviously the other one is the press building. So you have building maintenance for this particular facility, our electricity based on our billing for the last couple of years and what they average out to be, our equipment maintenance for HVAC, for keeping, replacing the lights and so forth and so on, our IT equipment, such as the cameras, the speaker system, so forth and so on that we maintain, any minor equipment that is associated with this particular facility. Again, any professional services that are needed at a high level, such as, for example, Discovery IT is our provider, our vendor for information technology services. Supplies that are needed for this particular facility, uniforms and cleaning, and lastly, water utilities. So that all comes out to a projection of $672,350. And then moving over to the press building, our Taj Mahal, general operations and asset management, building maintenance for the press building, as you can imagine, is a little bit steeper because it's brand new and just requires a lot of upkeep. Electricity for the facility, and by the way, let me insert that Ms. Muller and her team are constantly looking at ways to reduce operating costs at that facility as they're coming up on their first full year in the building. So starting to collect enough intel to maybe make some logical ideas of ways to reduce costs. But these are based on the numbers that we've been operating for this year and a little bit of last year. Any IT equipment that's specific for the press building, leases and rentals associated with the facility, professional services, again, this would be their portion of our IT contract. Any supplies that are specific to that building that don't include office supplies, as you can see, they're a separate line item, water utilities, and again, general cleaning and maintenance for the facility. And that comes in at just slightly over $1 million. And then last, at the corporate level, you have fuel and lube expenses that span the entire corporation. That's what these corporate level expenses are. They kind of touch everything. Recruitment, talent acquisition, that is what we're currently doing now with the 4 positions that were approved in this current budget, plus the ones that are being projected for the next budget. Park maintenance, taking care of you all, making sure that you have funds for any training that you want to take, any particular things like the chamber event that's coming up. Communications, whether it be Spectrum, Verizon that we use for our cellular service, video conferencing, it all rolls under that particular category. Any dues and subscriptions at a corporate level, our motor vehicle purchases or leases, our maintenance of our vehicles are tied to the corporation, any corporate level software that is going to touch the entire corporation, again, corporate level sponsorships that you all would approve, any temporary services that we might need, again, professional development at the corporate level, and again, a contingency at $200,000. And so at the corporate level, that's $768,300. Last but not least, you have payroll, which is the payroll that was approved going into this particular fiscal year, plus the projected 2 additional admin and 2 additional professional staffers. And all of that adds up to $8.8 million. Again, I emphasize preliminary. It is pending your feedback plus feedback from Ms. Boswell. One of the feedback nuggets that we will get from them is the status of fund balance, as well as any interest earned on any investments that are tied to us but held by the city. And that information tends to come August, September timeframe.
No questions?
Yes.
Go ahead. Just a quick question. Are you looking at adding new positions?
Yes, they're on the, under expenses on the second page, 2 professional staffers. And by the way, sorry, I stopped. Thank you, Madam Vice President. On the next page after the end of the budget is the projected personnel schedule that Ms. Boswell has and is working off of in terms of preliminary numbers. So you see what is currently in place wherever you see 1s under current. Anything that is at 0 and then a 1 under requested is what's new. In that particular case, 2 clerks, 2 administrative individuals, and 2 professional individuals. 1 would be specifically, and they're outlined on the second page in terms of what they are. 1 would be tied to Deputy Mueller at the press building, in charge of working with her on the entrepreneurship program. And then over under the corporate level, a business and financial services manager. That position may meld into what we currently have, or it may be added. Ms. Boswell wanted to play it safe and just go ahead and list it as an add. So forgive me for stopping a little bit too soon, but this is the projected personnel schedule.
So you have a financial operations officer and a budget and financial
Yes,
services.
and there is a good chance that they will meld. But to make sure that the budget was safe, Ms. Boswell suggested that, hey, let's add this item. It may end up be a career move for an existing incumbent, or we may actually hire against it. My theory is it'll probably be advancement for null incumbents. 1 would go away and 1 would be funded. It's a decision that would not come until August, September, and like I say, she wanted to, well, I can always, dial it back, but it's harder to go up, so she just went on and asked me to include it.
I just wanted to be sure about what those positions looks like? And you're going, not just those, but any additional or readjustments that you are going to make, you'll be making those decisions. How do you plan?
The only thing new from what we're currently operating under and what was approved going into this budget for this fiscal year would be the two administrative folks. That's new. The entrepreneurship individual and the financial individual. Everything else is already on the books. And of course, 4 of those positions are open, and that's what we're recruiting against.
Just looking at reviewing your plan, your
Excuse me. So from what I understand, there was a formatting change requested from the city, like presentation.
The other way around. This format is purely internal to us. It just makes it much easier for us to communicate to you. However, we didn't ask, but Ms. Boswell, the head of finance, volunteered that she's going to have her team look at specifically for the PADC, mirroring this so that when she generates monthly reports, they look a lot like this one. It helps that she has an economic development background, so it's easy to make those requests.
Okay, so I just have a request based on that. If we can see the numbers for, what is that, 2023, 2024, see a year over year, so we can understand the change line item wise. And then I have a couple other presentation notes, and I can reserve those for another time. But yeah.
Okay.
I only have one question regarding the budget. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'll wait till you. Regarding the budget and financial services manager, exactly what would their duties entail?
To be determined. I have a vision. I've spoken to my counterpart in finance, have an idea, but I have not committed that to a job description, and that would be done in conjunction with putting the final budget together. So I will have that as we drive towards a final and, talk to you all about that, what specifically I have in mind. But at a very high level, Director Raymond, it's being able to give myself, and by extension the board, more thematic and trend information. Right now, we tend to be very reactive for obvious reasons. We got a very large corporation at 9 million to keep up with. But I think we would all benefit as a corporation if we also are kind of looking down the line and looking at what impact we may have today on what we may do for the community 5-10 years from now. So at a high level, that's what I have in mind.
Thank you. Under Center for Entrepreneurship Program, the last meeting, or the meeting before, 2 meetings ago, it was explained to us that the building, the press building, had to be used for an incubator program, which is what I'm assuming this is. Or, what is it?
In fact, as Mr. Batiste eloquently articulated, one of the uses that was outlined in the grant, along with other uses, was a facility to help small entrepreneurship business get underway. So the idea has been, since I came on board, what I've said to the board is that, well, having run 3 of these in my career, you happen to be blessed with a facility that goes well beyond the typical incubator. Certainly the entire thing can't be an incubator, as we have 3 anchor tenants in there now, and that will always be the case. Plus, we have small businesses in there, for example, Solco company. We're very proud of the things that they are doing and growing, and hope that we hope one day they grow to the point where they have to leave, but we're not looking for that to be anytime soon, because we really enjoy having them available. So with that backdrop, sir, yes, this particular section is connected with having that incubation program get underway.
All right, now. It's a heck of a lot of money, but okay. Now, marketing and insights. All right. I'm going to skip that for you. I'm going to go back to one thing. Under business attraction, retention, and expansion, we've gone down from I'm not finding it, but I believe it was $2 million that we had under primary incentive programs.
That would have included Bay Grove, Port Arthur, as well as the microloans. You're correct overall.
All right, but we're basically at $1 million, okay? So we've whacked $1 million out. $500,000 of it sitting under the Center for Entrepreneurship. All right, now, there are new community and workforce programs. Need a little bit more explanation on that.
In terms of the existing programs?
No. You're going from 300, you're doing the 300 plus you're adding 430.
Yes, for new programs that we will be looking at. I'll give you an example. One of the things that Councilmember Doucette is very keen on us reinvigorating is what was formerly called the First Source program. And I've committed to him of bringing that program forward. It's several years out of date, and certainly preceded COVID, preceded supply chain problems, so forth and so on. So as we take a look at those programs and bringing them back along with other programs that industry stakeholders are telling us they would very much like us to come alongside and be partners with, those will be new to the organization. So that's what that will get.
Well, I would sit there and tell you that that would go under business attraction, retention, and expansion. Because the First Source program, basically, and we haven't done it since I've been here, I don't think it's been done in the past couple of years, that every contract that gets let by one of these refineries under the agreements comes through here first. Same thing with employment opportunities and everything else. That's not a new program to build out. That goes under retention. And, you know, if you want to add another staff member or something, but I don't know, I mean, I'm not trying to beat you up here. I need a better example than that, because that's under retention.
Fair enough. This is the very feedback that I wanted to get from you. Yes, the best way I can explain it is that, like I said, we would not be bringing talent on just to carry on old things. We could have done that ourselves. We are expecting someone to come with experience and vision on things that have perhaps been successful wherever we happen to pluck them from. If in fact there is something that, hey, that's something that can benefit this community, both the community at large and specifically our business community, then it's a new program that I want to make sure that we have allocated funding, as opposed to we all like the idea and now we're scrambling trying to pull from other areas to fund that. I would rather just have better safe than sorry. I'm not expecting that the person that we bring on in the next couple of months is not going to not have any new suggestions, new ideas, whether it's revamping something that's existing and making it brand new, or outright bringing something fresh to the table. And like I say, I want to make sure that funding has been there so that they can embark upon implementation of that fresh idea.
All right, and I'm going to ask this be put in, just so we know, what's the salary of this person? Top salary.
Don't have that pay scale.
100, 200? I mean, just...
Off the top of your head, 47 at the very...
I believe it's right at 78 and change.
47 plus whatever is negotiated.
78,000 top pay?
I don't want to give you a definite answer, but it's around there.
Around there? Okay. So this person would be coming from a large program, not a 1 or 2 person office, to have this kind of experience, right? They're going to have no idea. And that's fine. That's fine.
Just let me get, again, you raise a good point. Let me address that. As I mentioned earlier, someone that is a part of this team was recently elected to the board of directors of an international business and retention program. They came to us from a program of 1, but yet their experience and ideas in this area warranted them being recognized internationally. So it isn't a given.
Whenever
that
you
the person,
say internationally, the entire world, this organization represents the entire world.
well, the I in their name says that. Now, what their real growth is, what their depth reach is, I don't have any proof of that, but it's sort of like the International Economic Development Council.
Oh, I mean,
it simply means that you take memberships outside of the United States.
Do they have any? Oh, and the reason why I'm asking this, and it brings up another question, I'm fine if she goes on this board. And it's kind of like some other people on city council we've had this happen to. It's not, unless this board votes, we're not paying for her to go to these meetings.
Let's go back to the financial report.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Incentive for entrepreneurship. All right. Under the marketing and advertising. All right. Website overhaul and management and deployment of digital services, $289,000. All right. Don't know why it keeps talking about getting rebranding, because I really don't understand what the vision is in the rebranding. And I need to know that.
At a very high level, rebranding would be taking a look at where we stand in the marketplace. It could and likely will involve new logos. It will likely involve new taglines. It will likely involve establishing a social media presence, which we do not have one as of right now. It is basically, in a nutshell, bringing the corporation up to speed and up to date in terms of its marketing reach.
All right. Now, under this budget, for computer and software IT, overall, is $1,600,000. For professional services, $380,000. For marketing, $188,000. Contingency, $600,000. Now, somebody's going to have to explain to me, in terms that a 5th grader can understand, that much computer and software IT to move this organization forward to new leaps and bounds. And the same thing with professional services and marketing. My final thing, let's go over to the personnel request. That is, where are we at? Executive secretary is being eliminated. Assistants are being added, correct? Okay, what happens to the executive secretary?
That position was moved over into the overall entrepreneurship program coming up on a year ago. Simply a change of title, no other change other than that. We were not going to need an executive secretary over here, and we did know that we were going to need all hands on deck and our most experienced people over at the press building, taking care of it, getting it going, and getting this program underway. And so to begin that process, two of the longest tenured members of the organization were moved over there. And that position just simply went with that.
Is her salary changed? And will it change under this new budget? All right.
I will point out that I don't want to run afoul of Attorney Zach. We're getting into individual salaries and so forth and so on, and that's my purview.
We're not naming names. We're not naming names.
No. Okay. So the short answer to your question is no.
All right, so is a program and administrative assistant.
I'm sorry, yes, that is the position that was the former executive secretary.
Okay. And finally, why are we going from a facilities maintenance worker to a senior facilities maintenance worker?
He did that
Went up 7 steps.
In order to compete in the marketplace. I'll certainly met Ms. Mueller, who did that recruiting, but at a very high level. We were not getting the type of qualifications and background that we knew was going to be needed to keep up with these 2 facilities as well as 2 industrial parks. And as most things in capitalism, when if you want to compete, a lot of times you have to then up the ante. And so we brought to the board a change in that title, which has been.
When was? Because.
Ms. Fried.
The change in title is actually being presented in this budget. So the change of title did not happen previous to this. It was just an increase in the pay that we did, an adjustment with.
This new budget.
For the previous budget, and then this new budget, we're actually changing the title. But the pay is staying where it's already at.
All right. Let's talk about the vehicle. We have a vehicle in this budget. Can we talk about it? Yes. Buying a vehicle. Something about the vehicle?
Deputy Mueller, I will defer that to you.
Director Albright, our current truck that our maintenance person utilizes is 11 years old. It was bought in 2013, so it's just starting to have issues here and there mechanically, so we're requesting to upgrade and purchase a new vehicle for that position.
What kind of truck?
So we actually got a quote for an F-250, which is an upgrade from what we have. We do have currently an F-150. That's not to say that we will go with that once we get several other quotes. When it gets closer to that time, we may stick with the 150, but we did want to budget enough funds to cover that if we go with the quoted F-250.
Speaking of the rebranding line item, the previous marketing in community, well, I don't know what the committee was called, but the marketing committee, some of the work that or insights that we provided and input that we gave, where does that kind of fit into?
That culminated in a prototype of a new logo, and that is a part of the overall eventual rollout, which I hope to do as a part of this budget in early October.
I do. I think this is an extensive, and you used an extremely term, and overlook of a budget. I think there are some things that are being restructured here. I think a budget like this and changes like this need to be workshopped. You do not find any other, if we want to mirror city council, they have several workshops about the budget to discuss it. And I think we need to do that because there are some major changes being made in this and to this organization, and I think there needs to be a workshop discussion about it. I know that people had questions already, but I wasn't prepared for this discussion, and I do have some questions.
And I don't disagree with you. I lost. This was a part of the agenda for the one that we had to cancel, so I will just roll that to the 29th.
Yeah. I appreciate your hard work.
Thank you.
Ms. Stokes, the only thing I see is under general operations, under the press building, and items line for the press building, number 7 is 168,000. That's a positive number, right?
Leases and rentals? Let me, looking at the right line. Yes, sir.
Only other thing is, looking at these numbers, 1,013,000, the 160,000 income. Looking at what we can do as far as quit bleeding money on this building.
Quarters? You mean the press building?
This building.
I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page with you. Okay.
Spending lots of money on the press building.
Well, as I mentioned, Deputy Mueller and her team are, since they've now got a footing in there, continue to take a look at cutting operational expenses. And then in terms of income, it is obvious that this board wants to consider taking on new leases for small businesses. And I suspect that that's something that will firm up on the 29th as a part of the other things that are going to be talked about. And that would address what I would think that I understand you're getting at. Deputy Mueller, leases and rentals, I just don't want to misstate that. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, I caught it as well. So the leases and rentals that you see under general operations for both 501 and press building are not actual revenue. This is all expenditures. So for instance, press building leases and rentals, we have payment plans for a lot of the technology that was bought for that building, same as 501 Proctor here. We have several leases and equipment or other things that we rent. So these are actual expenses.
Sorry for the confusion, Director above, but your point is still well taken. Bleeding.
Anyone had any other comments about this? So it's been suggested that it roll over to.
There was no action to be taken, just a presentation,
Yeah.
and then we will take it into the 29th as a part of the agenda. It will be workshop, per Vice President Holmes' suggestion.
Time we starting on the 29th again?
Well, the only other alternative would be to schedule a separate workshop, and I'm fine with that. I mean, I serve at your pleasure.
We're gonna.
Point of order real quick. Do we have to have an attorney present for a budget workshop?
No.
There you go. You can do it anytime you want to. Hold on then. That changes everything.
So, yeah, let's,
So if you do not want to tie it all
no.
and break it out.
We just talked about this for an hour in this meeting. No, sir. We need another meeting for that. So just consider a date.
We'll poll you all tomorrow.
Other than July the 8th. It's a national
You
holiday.
can eliminate that from your response. We'll touch base with
We can't do it on
you.
the 8th. I say we do it on a Saturday.
It's just as bad.
And I take it that weekends are out. Seems to be the consensus of the group.
That's the president. But everybody's got to go along with him for his relaxation.
I have standing reservations on Saturdays. I do apologize for any inconvenience to the rest of our board
Day it
members.
shall be.
Agenda item number 7. Come on, y'all. We're 3 hours in now. All right. Review and discuss and possible action regarding an amendment to the Economic Development Performance Agreement with MPW Industrial Water Services, Inc. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion.
It's been moved and second. Mr. Stokes, are you handling this one?
Deputy Mueller, she has been
Right.
cradling this from the grave, from birth.
So, board members, as you all are aware, the lift station at the business park was delayed as far as the design and construction of that lift station. It was just completed this last month, as a matter of fact. So MPW is now able to increase their operations. When we entered into this agreement with them originally, the thought process was it was twofold. They would complete the infrastructure improvements to their building, as well as the increased line going to their property in the business park. And on the flip side of it, we in the city would upgrade that lift station so that it can output the water that they're bringing in, they're increasing. Unfortunately, because of that delay, they have not been able to increase their operations, therefore not being able to meet their payroll and hiring requirement as of yet. So it is the recommendation of staff to allow them 1 extra year. We are requesting the board to consider extending their incentive agreement by 1 year to allow them extra time to hire and create those payroll for Port Arthur residents.
On this day.
So it would include all of 2023 and 24, what they've done last year as well as up until now as year 1. And then it would conclude in 26 rather than 2025.
Okay, the reason why I'm asking, I don't think.
They're actually they've revved up their operations already since that lift station has been moving on pretty well. They've been able to rev up their operations already. So my understanding is they're already starting to hire, so they don't see a problem. They've agreed to those terms. They feel like they'll be able to hire their first years.
And Deputy Mueller, would you update the board on this one, please?
Sir, you all may recall we had a purchase agreement with John Crane Incorporated about a year ago, and they have been constructing their new business out in the business park. They are our newest purchase. And in order to complete their construction, The last thing they're needing is power to the facility so that they can complete that construction. Entergy has requested a right-of-way right behind their facility. It is standard format. We grant these easements all the time, so we are recommending we just move forward with this.
Yeah, I'm a little confused about.
Yes, so I'll have to, as a matter of fact, I think it's supposed to lean the other way.
Okay, so it's not taken up front.
Right, behind the building.
Okay.
Yeah,
So it doesn't interrupt any frontage or anything.
correct.
As we discussed a while back regarding the press building, it has been in operation for almost 2 years, and we have not had a ribbon cutting as well as an open house to open it up to the public to let them know exactly what the press building is all about and the plans that we have for the press building. So I'm asking again, we talked about it before, about us having a open house for the businesses as well as the public and ribbon cutting. Overdue due to the fact that it's been operational for almost 2 years now, and we never got opportunity to open house as well as at the art facility.
Yes, Madam Director, I stand corrected. I thought the direction was for us to go forward, and I
I don't know why
budget.
I don't know why it's on the agenda again, but anyway.
Oh, that's what Ms. Mueller and I have been operating under, and that's part of what we have budgeted. We just don't have that exact date yet, which is what I thought maybe you were putting it on here, that you were going to hold my hand to. No, I want to know the exact date and time.
Oh, no,
But yes, it's, Director Albright gave an idea in terms of the businesses, and so that's what we've been operating under, and we're still looking at the fall timeframe, but we just don't have that exact date. But we will have that soon so that we can start advertising to the community.
Thank you.
I've got a crazy suggestion. That the president. But just to get this baby down the road.
Just for clarity, what's already done? What have you already worked on, so we'll know what we're looking at? Have you already begun discussing putting things together? Do you have tentative dates or anything like that before we jump off the deep end?
And certainly, Deputy Mueller, you can chime in. The beauty of this is that we actually, for those members that were on the board last year, you may remember that we had a false start. So we had a list. We had checked it twice. We knew who we were going to invite. We were shooting at September. Architects get sick. A lot of things happen that we weren't able to have. We knew we weren't going to have the speakers we wanted, and so forth and so on. Long story short, none of that is wasted. We still have all of those things in place. We still know where the architect lives, and we certainly know where the engineers live and all of that. It is simply just a matter of us sitting down and starting to drive to a date. We've got you all's blessing to do that, and that's what we're operating. That's what I have budgeted. Probably will slip into the early October timeframe, just to make sure that funding is there and we're not having to move funds around. It's not that I'm turning down your help, Director Raymond. I guess you know, I don't want to speak for Deputy Miller. She keeps an eye on the building. I'm not sure we're there yet where we are reaching out for help because we had so much work done last year. We just have to activate it.
At this moment, we are brainstorming how to maybe take those plans that we had already had and fit them into this year and what we're planning on moving forward with the building. I'm not opposed to a committee or Ms. Raymond. As a matter of fact, I mentioned that to staff members the other day. Maybe that might be a good idea. So if that's something the board would like to help and take part in, that'd be great.
And I would just add one of the components that Director Albright added last time we were talking about this is making sure businesses were involved. So there's a certain coordination that we have to do with our brothers and sisters in the chamber. And we got to make sure that we're tying into their schedule as well, because we would want them as a vital stakeholder to be beside us on this. So things to be ironed out, but we're working on it.
Okay, so it sounds like.
Please forgive me.
What I'm asking is if you're going to do mailers and everything else, because I'm not sure, you know. If they want mailers. A lot of other stuff, and so the budget needs to be there and agreed upon.
And that is why, yes, we have been thinking about that, sir, in making sure that if we do expand this concept, the funds that had been allocated last year when we thought we were going to do this, we just simply left in the budget. But as you suggested, as I've mentioned, I've tweaked that a little bit upward, and that is why I would probably have the date in October, just so that we're spending off the new budget and not taxing the existing budget where perhaps we didn't have those funds allocated. But we'll drive to those exact numbers as we start to pinpoint what we want to do. Yes, ma'am.
I'm disappointed that you, in October, possible that we get, and for start a committee, but a committee, if we do that, I mean, I think it'll be way good. All can work together to.
Last thing I'll say, the direction we got 2 meetings ago was September. So that's what we were shooting for. And once Ms. Muller and I started talking about it, we didn't feel there was going to be much different. Obviously, that's to get out of the way of Labor Day. We certainly don't want to do it on the opening weekend of football because we'll have no one here. So as you started to look at it, we weren't that far from October. I know psychologically it sounds like a long way away, but the direction that we got was September. So I understand you'd rather have had it last September, which is what we were shooting for. I get that. I can't turn the clock back, but we understand that this is important, as Director Albert said. This is big, and we know that. We haven't lost sight of that. It's just pulling everything together. Yes. And I'd welcome Ms. Holmes and yourself.
Cool committee, because I have all the knowledge I am. Beat up.
Yeah, Will, but that's okay.
You had something to say? I'm sorry.
Only thing,
Survival here for a few people.
Beverly, the only thing bringing it forward is storm season, and I think this is going to be a bad one. So October would be a better month, I think.
Waiting long, what's one more month? That's fine. Thank you.
A couple more weeks.
All right, y'all. Let's just set this committee, this press building committee, Ms. Raymond and Ms. Holmes. Ms. Holmes, you want to work on that? Anyone else want to work on it? We can have 3. And Ms. Kayla Jacobs, okay? So you have 3 people for press building committee, and y'all have fun.
Good, and y'all should have fun.
Let me retract that statement. Yeah, so we set that committee. Now we're going to move to agenda item number 10. Review and discuss of the Spur 93 Business Park lift station. I need a motion, please.
Second.
It's been moved. Second.
On this lift station, going way back 9 months, the CEO stated that we was going to pay for the lift station upgrade, whatever, because the city is a slow payer. And that's fine, whatever. And I think we all voted on it, whatever it is. But it's been 9 months that I talked about this, and we're talking $386,000. At 5% interest, we have lost $14,000 in revenue. And we still don't have our money. And the last time it was discussed, it was going to be the EDC attorney to go get our money from the city. That was 2 months ago. Last month I let it lie, I didn't talk about it. And I'd like to make a motion that we put a demand letter into the city for the total amount of money, because 9 months is a long time for this. And that was the whole thing. We was gonna pay because they slow payers. And we was gonna recoup our money. You said you was negotiating with a city manager.
Sorry, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page. The lift station emergency procurement was in the February-March timeframe that it was brought to you. So the 9 months throws me off. It's neither here or there, but I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing. This is all something that's 2024. Doesn't date back to last year. I'm not going to, obviously can't speak for Attorney Zuck, so I won't even try and do that. As I've tried to explain, perhaps inarticulately, but nonetheless, my understanding after consultation with Attorney Zuck's colleague, David, is that because we proceeded in using our emergency procurement procedures in order to get this project done sooner as opposed to later, procedures that are not available to the city, then I could not easily turn around and then solicit from the city the funding, because it could be construed as though the city just utilized us and our procedures that they didn't have available to facilitate this happening sooner than it otherwise could. I haven't received any other direction from legal along those lines. So the approach that I've taken is, okay, well, neither of the entities are going anywhere. There are going to be opportunities for us to partner, much like the study, whereby there are things that we can call upon the city to do that perhaps carries more of the burden to them and over the course of time recovers the funds. If that is not acceptable to the board, then that's fine, but I am just trying to follow the legal advice that I've received, and if I've misinterpreted,
Yes. Like I said, I talked about this every month. It started out, you was going to negotiate every month, every month, every month. 2 months ago, you turned it over to the EDC attorney and told him to go deal with it. Now, I don't know why he would have talked to you instead of the board when I'm giving him direction, or you too. And this is the first time I heard about this. But the whole story is you paid for it, or we paid for it, because they were slow payers. And it's their lift station. We can spin it all around we want. It's our money.
I'm not in any way, shape, or form arguing with you, and I hope that you don't take it that way. I am simply outlining to you the steps that I've taken. If it sounded to you as though something changed, it is probably because the advice that I'm receiving that I had not sought prior to that is what is then presented, which then, oh, well, basically you're telling me that I can't go and take that approach. Well, if we are going down a certain track and all of a sudden someone says, well, you can't go down that track, try another one. Okay, then it will sound to the board as though, oh, well, you said you were going to do such and such and now you're not doing that. I'm not doing it. I have been given legal direction on an approach. So I just don't want you to take it as though somehow I'm ignoring the wishes of the board. Wouldn't do that. I am trying to make sure that based on the advice that I'm getting, that I'm adhering to that so that I do not put the corporation at risk.
Well,
I apologize, Director LeBeau. I really don't know anything about this. I haven't heard about it. If you will allow me an opportunity to get with David, Director, I'll try to sort what's going on.
I'm just curious about something, and this is for legal. What emergency powers does an EDC have that a city doesn't?
Well, the city doesn't have to follow any procurement laws. And the city has to follow all the procurement laws. So that's really the major difference is there are specific procurement provisions for cities. And I don't know anything about, I just don't know anything. It's a general matter. There are specific findings that you have to have for something to be an actual emergency for a city in order to do an emergency procurement. Don't have to follow the state procurement guidelines, so we can spend money without having to comply with the same procurement rules that the city has to follow. I don't know what emergency rules what emergency procurement they were talking about the city. I don't know. As a general matter, for example, an expenditure over $50,000, they're required to follow the specific statutory procedures in state law under Chapter 252 for procurement. We don't have to do that as an economic development corporation. So
I want to throw two.
yeah, sure. And
all right.
But I will look into it.
City has a main. Council,
that's an emergency.
Notified, but those repairs are happening.
Yeah, that's an emergency. Absolutely.
Now, a TECQ fine possibility. Does that constitute an emergency?
I don't know. I would hate to speculate on hypothetics.
But
I don't know.
I mean, just research wise, and the only question: would a TECQ possible fine for overrunning constitute an emergency?
Yeah, it may. I would have to go back and read the statutory provisions as to what, because it is specific in the statute as to what contemplates an emergency. And so I would have to, read that and then apply the hypothetical. But it is quite possible that something like that, yes, would constitute an emergency.
Yes, sir.
Especially when there's a risk to the health and public safety. Yeah. But if it's just a fine, it may not. So it all depends on the reasons.
Keep.
All right, so you're going to have some information. Item number 11, review and discuss and possible action regarding the status of the PAEDC CEO's relocation into the city of Port Arthur. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion.
It's been moved and second. Right. LeBeau, sorry. You're
Yeah,
next.
I brought this back up. We had this in closed session. We discussed this, and it was, Mr. Stokes made a comment that this was brought to the board and was approved. After reviewing with several people, this was never brought to the board or approved.
You're saying what wasn't brought to the board and approved? What are you talking about?
We're talking about right here, his relocation.
We're talking about when he first came here. What about? I wasn't here for that. What was the discussion?
It's the same thing. I guess, attorney, under his moving package, was he required to bring before the board his relocation expenses to be approved by the board?
I don't know off the top of my head. I would have to look at the agreement as it at the obligations of the was at that point.
Okay, now I make a motion to table until we get a opinion from the.
On table, yeah, got second. They got second.
Voted.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion passed. Table that rather.
Oh, bring it back once we have an opinion from the attorney.
Item number 12. Discussion and possible action regarding the PAEDC's business parks, property sales, prospective buyers that meet. And please.
So move.
It's been moved. Second, to Albright.
Yes. My question's this, and it goes to the person that made a presentation tonight, and might go to other people too, I'm not sure. But, you know, I keep hearing that we're not willing to do business or do this or do that. Just, policy is we're open for business. Now, that does bring a little bit of a different angle that I think we can work with. And that is I think he'll put up one. I think he's always going to have one. Always one empty, looking for the next. But that being said, he's going to sit there and take options on land, which is fine, you know, because it's going to be to a certain point, you know, like a 6-month option. But I think we have to be open to it because there's, I think, 3 buildings in there that are not owned by the tenants. And certain corporations, I don't know why they do it. I don't believe in it. But they only lease. They do not own any physical assets as far as real estate. And it's for tax purposes. Doesn't make any sense to me, but it is what it is. And it's a trend. And it's just a trend. The big boys like to lease instead of own, brick and mortar. They want to lease it. So, as long as the tenant that they're going to put in there meets the guidelines of the, you know, EDC rules for the business park, you know, I think we need to be open to it and have it brought to us. Thank you.
Any statements, comments concerning that?
Larry did not have an opportunity to get into a lot of the details, but I just would like you all to know that what he and staff are working on in his particular team, they are interested specifically in parcel 416790, right in the heart of the park. He'd like to start out with 2 acres, but he wants a 120-day feasibility period, which he did mention, 60-day closing period, and first right of refusal for the remaining parcels in that overall 17-acre tract, which is what he's looking at. And that is what we and his team are working on. There's, you know, I don't know how to refute the thought that somehow we're not working with people. Not sure how I would have all this information if we weren't working with folks, but Dr. Albright, I concur. We are indeed open for business, and nothing I can do about what you might hear, but
No,
we're working.
That's why we're talking about this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
All right, no action there. 13, review, discuss, and possible action regarding the press building, office rentals, and establish a policy regarding such rentals. May I have a motion, please?
Make a motion.
All right, it's been moved and second. Mr. Albright.
Yeah.
Duly noted.
Anyone else have anything on that?
I have a quick comment in regards to
Y'all love future agenda items. Do we have any?
Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna need help. I would like for a future agenda item, but I would like to see all the invoices. Possibly discuss.
Payment?
If, looking at it, and if there's any questions about certain bills that were paid.
Right, we'll make sure we get agenda worded in a way that accomplishes.
Else? Move
Hey there.
Y'all did it, y'all added it during this meeting.
We vote on the items that we discussed at the workshop to get that over with, or do we have to come back to a regular meeting and do it?
No, you can have it scheduled for action at the workshop if you choose.
Yeah, I have one thing. I don't know if it needs to be on there or not, but we getting these late reports from the CEO staff. What I'd like to see, we have to put everything in by 5 business days, or 5 days. We'd at least like to see 4 days, 5 days, a package. Give us our package. We can study them.
Just a little directive, huh? That's just directive. Let's get the packets out earlier. I'm going to admit this time was half my fault, so y'all don't beat them up too bad. Some of this was on me this time.
Well,
I said this time.
what I'm saying though is, what I just said, is it going to be followed through?
Yes, it's documented. We made it in a meeting, and it's something everybody wants. So now let's entertain that. You done? Let's entertain that motion to adjourn.
So moved.
2 seconds on that one. All right.